Hi, welcome to Call to Acting. This is the live show, and I'm your host, Joshua Powell. And our guest today is none other than my new friend, Daulton Brewer. So I'm going to bring him on now. And there we go, Daulton. You're here in the chat with us. Yeah, say hello to everybody.
How's it going, man?
It's going good for me. So we're just going to take a few seconds, kind of get warmed up. It looks like you're drinking some coffee. What are you drinking?
It's nothing special.
Oh,
It's
come on.
just your normal run of the mill. Actually, it's not even Folgers or Maxwell House or anything. It's the Walmart brand
Oh, wow.
of coffee.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm sitting here sipping some coffee. Haven't had any coffee yet, so.
Sounds good. For
Yeah.
anybody, it might be a little glitchy with the web conversation, but audio should be coming through clear. Let me know in the comments if you can hear us and what you think. I'm going to switch over to Facebook really quickly and find where this feed is coming through and verify that it's coming through. And share it with you guys. And if you would share it on your pages as well, anybody that's watching or has joined the stream, that would be really helpful. So Daulton, will you go ahead while I'm doing this and tell everybody what I keep listing when I post your name? And this was one of the it was one of the first things I found out about you, actually. And it's even part of why I decided to have you on the show, because I just thought it was an interesting story. But
Okay.
so you're a duck decoy. Explain what that is to everybody.
Yeah. It's basically a few years ago, some friends of mine and I just went to fall festival for a lookalike contest and for a Duck Dynasty lookalike contest, and there were like 30 something people. It was a very small town fall festival in a little town called Prescott in Arkansas, and the people that were there were about 30 contestants already signed up. Everybody thought we were there like we were the real people and that we were there to judge the contest, and we're like, no, we're here to compete. We're not really them. And it just kind of snowballed from there. So now we've got like a little tribute group, I guess think that's the official term for it, but Duck Dynasty or Robertson lookalikes, and we call ourselves the Duck Decoys. So it's kind of fitting, but the actual Robertsons, they know about us down there in West Monroe. They've invited us to come to West Monroe for a couple of events. Last one we were at was a book and CD signing for Cy Robertson. He put out a CD to commemorate him and his wife Christine's 50th anniversary, and they invited us to come down. His daughter-in-law actually is the one who contacted me. Marsha Robertson is the one who contacted me and asked us to show up at the warehouse for that, just to walk around and make people go a little nuts about who's actually really the real person. But
yeah, that's fun. That's fun. I mean, it's opened up some interesting doors. One of the things that we were talking about yesterday when we did our little test interview for a few moments was how with acting we might not always be making any money off of it, but we seem to keep doing it no matter what. And I talked some about how, to me, the performing in general is really what I want to be able to do, and how I've done a few different mascot gigs and stuff like that. And I just think that experience probably has to be insane to, one, be a part of, but then to cause that freak out in other people where they don't know who's the real person, and you get to be a part of that game. Like, okay, well, let's go into. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, like the lookalike thing. I mean, we get invited to come to a lot of different events. There's several large casinos have asked us to come to different events that they're having. There's Brookshire's and Super One Foods. They're the same corporation. They invited us to come down to Shreveport for their annual Heroes Run. It's like a 5K run that they do to and all the money they raise goes to military and first responder families. And they invited. We got contacted by the corporate office wanting us to show up for that, and we've done things like birthday parties and little small town festivals, and probably the biggest appeal out of all of it is just the reaction you get out of people. We were talking about it yesterday. Is just we're entertainers, and that's probably where we get it just as much enjoyment. I mean, it's nice to get paid for it,
right?
We enjoy entertaining and getting that response from people, especially kids. With the Duck Dynasty stuff, kids go nuts. Just to put a smile on a kid's face is that's worth more than a couple of bills, actually. For me, but.
So, thank you for sharing that, and I want to use this second to transition into telling people kind of how we met. We met on a commercial shoot. I don't know if it's not out yet, so I guess we won't mention the brand. But we met on a commercial shoot. We are with the same agent, Action Talent Agency, and it seems thus far that's the only people I've interviewed. But for anybody watching, I am willing to interview anybody and everybody about acting, performing, writing, directing, or what have you. But my network seems to be very connected to other people with my same agent. So that's how we met. And but I still don't know a lot about you, Daulton. I found you to be a very interesting, kind guy, and I figured it would be interesting to have you on the show and get some questions maybe from some people. But what I do know is that you've been an actor for some years. From your IMDb, I see that you were in movies like Year One and a few others. Were you in a scene with Edward Norton? That looked like that's what may have happened.
Yeah, I was actually in a couple of scenes with. I was basically an extra, but I got to do a couple of other things that the extras didn't. Like I got to drive in one of the scenes. I drove my car. I had a 1995 Geo Tracker, and they seemed to think that was going to fit the concept of their movie, because it was, I don't know, it was sort of a redneck, a city boy goes home to his redneck family kind of thing.
That's Leaves of Grass, right?
Right, Leaves of Grass, yeah. And so I got to drive up to the nursing home where he's standing out in front of, so I was in that scene with him. And then a funeral scene that I got to work at. I probably spent more time getting to talk to some of the A-list cast members in that show off camera than I actually spent on camera with them. But it was it was a lot of fun. That's probably, that's probably what sort of sparked the hunger to want to do more of it was just getting to be on set, even if it was just to be an extra. Just being on set helped me realize that it was something that I really enjoyed doing. Yeah. And wanted to pursue a little more in depth,
Right. Okay. So one of the reasons because even yesterday you said that, was it your father that when he found out that you had an interview was like, why doesn't anybody want to interview you?
Right. Yeah, that was, because I mean, honestly, you always have sort of a self-perception, and it's still a little weird to me that I can say, yeah, I do some acting from time to time. I've been in commercials with Drew Brees and with Cy Robertson and now with Josh Powell.
Wow. Yeah, that was nothing. No. I feel like it's more the brand and the exposure that either of us will get regionally from the commercial that we did.
Right.
So one of the things that I think is amazing is how throughout the Southeast, or regional actors in general, and actually even actors out in LA, we all have some form of job, or most people have some form of other job that they're doing, either at least on a part-time basis, maybe it's freelance, maybe it's running their own business or other things. But no different than my last guest who runs his own business, but also does a couple of other things. You have about 5 different hats that you wear from what I was able to add up. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, 5 and counting, I guess you could say, because we always seem to be adding another thing to the mix. Like I said yesterday, I kind of equate it to spinning plates.
Yep.
You feel like the guy trying to run around, and you just have to keep the plate spinning. So you got to run over here and spin that one for a minute, and then go over here, spin that one to just keep them from crashing to the floor. But me and my dad, we went into business together a few years ago, taking over a storage facility, like a mini warehouse place. And so we took that over in October 2012. And then just a few months later, I bought a small independent insurance agency from a guy that I'd known for years, but he was just ready to retire. And so I took that opportunity because I'd worked in insurance for a few years. And, it just seemed like an interesting but a good fit to move into the same office. So we ran the storage facility, and I ran an insurance agency out of the same office. And then we bought a bounce house business, inflatables, families or church events, they rent the slides and bounce houses and water slides and things like that. And so we do that. And we put my brother, he was a club DJ out in Dallas for like 18 years. And he moved home. He decided he was tired of the city life, I guess, in Dallas. And I think he saw my kids. He doesn't have any kids. He's never been married, has no intentions to do so in the near future. But he's 3 years older than me, but he saw my kids growing up, and I think he felt like he was missing something. And so he came home and moved into the office he caught the entrepreneurial bug from Dad and me and opened up a U-Haul dealership and a car audio installation business. He puts car stereos in cars and speakers and CD players and things like that. And so we're running those 5 businesses out of that office.
Wow.
And then I have a farm, little homestead farm that me and my wife and our kids run together. We grow all our own produce, and we have milk cows. I milked a cow this morning, as a matter of fact. And so, I guess I kind of look the part maybe for that.
Yeah.
But I milked the cow, and we have goats, and we have chickens, and a petting zoo, really, more than a farm, I guess you could say.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely it's never a dull day in the Brewer house.
It sounds like it.
So
it sounds like
yeah.
So with all of that, how does having such an active life, how does that balance out with being an actor?
Well, I think even as busy as it sounds like I am, the fact of the matter is I am my own boss.
Right.
And we've actually set it up. It took a few years to really get it to that point, but we set it up where we don't necessarily have to be there. All of us don't have to be there for it to work. Mm. And so, whenever I go, like I spent 3 days in Nashville a couple months ago shooting a scene on an upcoming Nashville episode.
Yep.
I spent a couple of days in Jackson, Mississippi, shooting the commercial for Blue Cross Blue Shield with you. And, I'm able to break away from all of that for a couple of days if I need to, just like my dad can do the same if he needs to go do something. Mm-hmm. If he wants to take a couple of days to go fishing or whatever, he can do that. So it really, we've kind of worked ourselves into a position, for me in particular, where I can actually pursue the acting. Prior, whenever I was pursuing it, I was actually in between jobs. Yeah. Whenever I first got into acting, I was in between jobs, and I had plenty of free time.
Right.
So if I needed, and they back then, whenever I first got into acting, they weren't doing the video auditions as much. You know, you had to show up even for the first round. They wanted to see you in person. So I was driving to New Orleans for auditions and Austin, Texas for auditions. You know, it seemed like they were always far off. My agent was in Shreveport at the time, but I never got to go to Shreveport for an audition. I always had to drive hours away somewhere. But I was, like I said, I was in between jobs. I usually had to borrow a lot of money from my dad at the time for gas to get down there. But I was glad I had the opportunity to do that, because that was really what got my foot in the door. That was when I was doing extra work on some of these movies. That's when I realized that it was something that I might actually be able to do. I think that was the hardest thing for me to believe, was that a guy from a small town in Southwest Arkansas could actually pursue a job or a career in acting and actually do it. It was always kind of a dream, a pipe dream, but I never thought that it was possible. And I had a friend who I ran into, hadn't seen him in years, and I ran into him at a local restaurant here in Hope, Arkansas, and he had actually just came home from shooting 7 Pounds with Will Smith.
Oh, wow.
And some of the folks watching may know him. He's not doing anything with acting anymore at the time that I know of, anyway. But his stage name was MacGyver Williams. Joel Williams is his real name. That's it. I grew up with him, knowing him as Joel Williams, and but then I had to tell myself, whenever he took me to workshops with him, I had to call him MacGyver, because that's who, in the acting world, that's what they knew him as, was MacGyver, not Joel. So it was kind of one of those things, your friend that you grew up with, their middle name, but nobody else needs to know that. But he actually got me into it. He got me in with his agent that he had at the time, Jeffrey Nightbird, with Acclaim Talent.
Okay.
And so that's who I signed with originally. And but of course, life happens, and my wife and I had a child. We already had a child when I first started pursuing acting, but we had another one, and he had some complications early on as a baby, and I was actually working, since I had a growing family. I needed to find some steady income. Even though I loved acting and doing that sort of thing, it wasn't steady. And so I needed to find some steady income. So I got a day job as working for an insurance agent. And I kind of had to tell Jeffrey and the folks at Acclaim that I needed to take a break. And I did. I took a break for probably 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And, then it kind of sort of fell back into my lap because of the Duck Dynasty thing. I grew the beard out, and a friend of mine that I had met, I made friends with, folks like Ryan Glorioso with Glorioso Casting down in New Orleans. I got to meet him and got to know him pretty well. And then I got to meet Darcel Moreno, who is now signed with the same agent that we're both signed with, but she was an agent a couple of years ago, and she and Ryan knew about me because we were friends on Facebook, knew I was doing the Duck Dynasty thing, and this opportunity came up for a commercial with Cy Robertson, and they called me. Darcel called me or messaged me and said, "Hey, you want to do a commercial with Cy Robertson?" And I said, "Maybe." And it sort of came from, and by that time I was working for myself. I was self-employed and was able to have I honestly had sort of forgotten about the acting thing.
Wow.
It's one of those things that it wasn't that I necessarily didn't like doing it. I got to do it in church plays and different skits and things that, with the church that I'm a member of. But I didn't know if it was one of those things. I didn't know if I was ever going to be able to do it officially again and actually get paid for it.
Okay.
And And then Darcel called me or messaged me and said, "Hey, I got an opportunity for you," and sort of sprung me back into the scene, so to speak. And
yeah,
I was thankful for it. It was one of those things that whenever I left it, I knew when I left it that I might not be going back to it. That the opportunity that boat may be sailing away.
wow.
And so it was kind of a hard decision for me then, because I'd really come to love it. But it was one of those things I had to weigh the priorities and take care of my family and actually provide for my family at the time, or pursue acting. And the logical choice at that time was, I had a wife and 2 kids that I needed to take care of. And
Right.
so I put it down, and, but the Lord gave me the opportunity to get back into it. And, I'm thankful. I'm just thankful that whenever the opportunity came back up, I was actually able to take it and run with it. So.
Wow. I mean,
I don't know if you wanted that long of an answer.
I did, actually. That was great. I think that was a great explanation for everybody, a lot about you and acting, and then also that balance. And even something that has kind of come into my life recently is that whole idea that sometimes that letting go of something that we really want to do what we have to do or do what we need to do, is what results in us being able to do something even bigger and better years later.
Right.
And that's really interesting that you have that kind of story. And I think it's encouraging to a lot of people too, that maybe, if they stepped away from acting in the past, and then that, for one, now technology has allowed for it to be a lot more flexible time-wise, that you can have a full-time job, shoot auditions at night, and find ways around that. What tips would you have for someone, though, as far as transitioning a business to have a little more I don't believe that entrepreneurship is for everyone, but I believe that entrepreneurship is for everyone, if that makes any sense. I think that all of us should at some point probably take some sort of entrepreneurial venture, or partnership or something. And in a lot of ways we do. We're not always getting paid for it, but I think that you just even recently did a drive to raise money for lack of a better word, a charity that you're a part of.
Right.
And even something like that is very entrepreneurial. You set up that day for the rummage sale at your church, and then all of that money is going to go towards buying shoes for the Roma people, correct?
Right. Yeah. That's another thing that I do. Another plate that I spin, I guess you could say, is I do mission work over in Romania. And that actually started in 2009, which would have been, I guess, around the time that I was sort of fizzling out on the acting thing the first time around. But I started doing mission work in Romania, and we've sort of developed a shoe ministry over there with a missionary that we work with in the Oradea area, which is northwest Romania. And it's just that sort of snowballed into more than what we ever thought that it would. I started with an organization taking student groups over there, college and high school kids, and just doing vacation Bible school or backyard Bible school kind of stuff, just going into the villages, working with the churches and having the kids come play games and things like that. And then one year, the student organization I was working for, or doing the trips for, they decided to take a year off, and I refused to. And so I put together a group of friends of mine, all adults that I knew, they all, just from me talking about Romania for a few years, they all kind of wanted to go. And I said, well, let's put a team together. Let's go. And one of them, a girl who's going with me again here in June, she had this crazy idea to take some shoes. So she took a suitcase full of shoes, probably 40 or 50 pair of shoes.
Wow.
And it went over so well that they asked us to come back And the next time we went back, we took 250 pairs of shoes.
Gosh.
And we ran out, actually. The third day we were there, we ran out of shoes and had to do a pledge on Facebook. I put a post on Facebook and asked for people to pledge money so that we could buy more shoes. And we raised $1,600 in 6 hours to buy more shoes when we were there. But since then, I've been back.
To jump in real quick, do you have a website or a hashtag that you use to make posts about that organization that people could check out if they're interested in supporting when they hear about this?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's it's probably not a viral hashtag yet anyway, but we use two different hashtags. Hashtag Little Feet for Little Feet Ministries, and hashtag Hope for Souls. Souls spelled like the soles of your feet, SOLES. Because we're based out of Hope, Arkansas. That's where, I actually live in Stamps, Arkansas, but, the town that we all kind of revolve around is Hope, Arkansas. And so that, sort of plays into that name too. But so either of those hashtags is what we've been using for our stuff that we do.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's awesome, man. So to continue along the entrepreneurial line, and then I guess I'll come back to a question about Romania. So as actors, we have to, like you talked about, you actually had a period where you had to set down acting and take on the full-time job, and then that transitioned into being an entrepreneur.
Right.
So I guess my first question would be, what made you decide to start your own, is it your own insurance agency, as far as like, are you selling insurance policies that your own company backs, or is it that you're selling insurance policies as kind of a franchise of another bigger company? Even to ask that question.
Well, not a franchise. I'm an independent agent.
Okay.
But I don't actually, I'm not the company that is insuring them.
Right.
I represent the companies. As an independent agent, I'm able to contract with multiple companies. I'm not just captured with one particular company. So it's not just State Farm or Farm Bureau or anything like that. I'm able to contract, because all of those are captured companies. If their agents can only represent them, I'm self-employed. I'm not employed by a company.
Okay.
So I'm able to contract with, Progressive and, to name a few, Progressive and Dairyland and Foremost, which is a farmer's insurance company. And, I've got about 20 companies. I won't go through the whole list. I've got about 20 companies I contract with. And, but yeah, I'm sort of, I guess you could say I'm a middleman.
Yeah.
Or a broker. I'm a broker for insurance policies. And, I do that with house insurance, car insurance, life insurance, health insurance. I do bonds and commercial insurance. I kind of do it all, but as an independent agent, it gives me the liberty to do that.
Right. Okay. How did you you said you had it designed or set up with the company when you started building it in a way that would give you freedom, or that flexibility of schedule. Can you talk more about that and explain how you did that for everybody? Yeah,
well, I mean, the day job that I took whenever our second child was born, my wife's second child was born, when I took the break from acting, I took a day job working for an insurance agent, a State Farm agent. And at the time, we actually were working for me to eventually train to become an agent, take over an agency somewhere else in the state or the country for State Farm. I was what's called an agent aspirant. And after a couple of years, or nearly 3 years of working there, I don't know, me and my dad had talked about going into business together. And because my dad had lost his job that he had with a big bank.
Really?
Yeah, they laid him off and hired 3 young people to do his job. That he trained, actually. They hired these 3 people. Yeah. But that's a whole other story. I won't go into that, but he had worked there for 33 years, and when they let him go, Dad and I we were talking from time to time about going into business together, but we were like, what in the world would we do? We don't know what we would do as a business. And just me with my experience that I got from my day job working for an insurance agent, a 9-to-5 Monday through Friday job, the experience I got working with that and being close to the business side of it, because I was an agent aspirant. I was training to learn how to run my own agency, which is just a business. I mean, it's a type of business. So you're learning how to run an insurance agency is not much different than learning how to run some other kind of business that you might own by yourself, running a store, a restaurant, or whatever. It's all about numbers and, profit margins and things like that. So, the experience I have from that, and then the financial experience he had from working 33 years in banking, he and I both, we had the opportunity to do it, and we had the knowledge to do it from our experience. It kind of like Dad, he worked for 33 years for a corporation that he was an employee of. He didn't own the business, but he sort of worked his way up the ladder, and it was sort of I guess in our culture we have stereotypical ideas or paradigms of what we're supposed to do. And he had the normal American dream job of working 9-to-5 for a company. He had worked his way up. He made a great salary with them, had benefits and all of that stuff, and all of that was kind of taken from him. And so you sort of have to stop and think outside the box about what you can do. And if it hadn't been for the experience that he got from 33 years working for a banker, the experience I got from taking a break from acting and getting a day job, I wouldn't have known how to open my own business. I wouldn't have known how to go into business, running a storage facility, and then buying an independent insurance agency and setting that up and running it successfully. If I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have had the knowledge to know how to go into business for myself. So I'm thankful for the time that I was able, that I feel like I had to take a step back from pursuing the dream, so that I could. And I didn't know that was what was happening at the time. I thought that I might be leaving acting for good, just trying to make a decision. I guess what I felt like was my obligation to my family was to put that on hold and maybe even never revisit it again, to take for the sake of my family, And I think I don't agree with people pursuing the dream in spite of the things that they should be taking care of. I have a wife and I have kids. I mean, it's my responsibility to take care of them.
Yes, sir.
And so I felt like I was making the best decision, and just prayed that I was making the right decision, that ultimately the Lord would be pleased with what I was doing with my life, and that I feel like He gave me the opportunity to pursue this dream again, because I was willing to step back from it.
Yeah.
I was willing to, just trust in Him and trust in what I knew was the right thing to do at the time. And by doing that, I was blessed with the opportunity to go back into it. And, now I'm, like you said, I go back into it. Now I'm in a position, because I am my own boss. I'm in a position where I can take off a couple of days and go work on a set somewhere. I can do that now, and now I'm actually more comfortable. I remember going into auditions when I first started being a nervous wreck. You know, I mean, nearly sick to my stomach with nerves trying to go into an audition.
Yeah.
And, you know, and it comes through. I mean, I can go back to some of those videos, audition videos, and I'm like, man, I look stupid. I look like I didn't have a clue what I was doing. And really, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. But now that I have the experience and I'm able to pursue it in a more comfortable area. I'm more comfortable with it. I'm more comfortable with myself and who I am. I'm more comfortable with the process. And so with that being comfortable and being able to relax and being able to, you know, to focus on just being good at it, I'm able to book jobs where I wasn't booking jobs before.
Wow.
And I've had, like I said, I've had the opportunity to work on Nashville set. You know, that was an awesome opportunity. And working with Blue Cross Blue Shield, you know, I've got to work for Zaxby's on a commercial. I've gotten, I guess you could say, I know this doesn't actually exist in the acting scene, but honorable mentions from casting directors and from directors for movies and things. They're impressed by me, and you know, it might be certain details of the reason. Like I've got this big thing on my face. I've been asked if I would shave it or cut it off to get a role, and if I'd have said yes, I probably would have booked the role.
Oh wow!
But,
so your answer is actually no. You when asked. So for those that are newer to acting and for those who know for years, one of the things that will happen is on different auditions when we submit, we have the option sometimes during our slate, the part where you say your name, height, agency, city you live in, and all, to also tack on, I'm willing to cut my hair, shave my beard, or whatever is necessary for this character. And you don't tack that on, I'm guessing, is what you say. You send in the audition, and then if they ask later, you say, no, this is the package you get.
Yeah, that's kind of where it's at. I mean, and our agent is perfectly okay with that. You know, she's encouraged me, and Darcel, whenever I was with her, she encouraged me. She said, they both said, you know, this is actually probably one of the things that they notice about you, but it's also, and I've never been like, no, you're not touching this thing. I mean, I've told them I'll trim it, but I'm probably not going to cut it off. You know, I'll trim it back an inch, maybe 2 inches at the most, but you know, it's not, I don't know. Like you said, it's kind of the package.
Well, that's an interesting thing to me. So it seems like you, in one way, I think a lot of us as actors are kind of scared of that level of commitment to who we are. And it seems crazy. Like you have to be confident as an actor to try. But so one of the things I've done is, you know, I can grow a pretty good mustache. It's at a point now where I've gotten comments in the past few days about it. And but it'll go to full handlebar mustache and whatnot, and I've used that in short films and as a look that I want people to know is there, but I don't walk around all the time like that. And it's always been a debate of mine, and even the choice to keep what I have right now is where I feel like I'm most comfortable, because I can grow this back in about a month, but I'm willing to shave it off tomorrow if I have to. And yet, I don't know. That's just it's really interesting and telling to me that you would be that definite in who you are and the look that you've decided on, or at least the look that you have right now. And it works though, you know, like you say, like it's gotten you parts, and it may have lost you some parts, but in the end, I guess what people would say is those parts would have muddied the brand, right? Like if you had gotten those parts because you clean shave, it would have just confused people about your specific brand. Wow. I mean, I don't know if that, like, because it makes me think to do the equivalent for me would be to grow back out my full handlebar mustache, which I had for a long time, and it did not necessarily book me any parts. It got lots of comments and was definitely noticed by people. and was complimented and whatnot, but it didn't book me any parts. But for me, it would be to grow that back out and just say, no, I'm keeping this for the next 5 years, if not the rest of my life. And it's going to be a part of who I am. It just seems that's a strong decision. That is a very confident and strong decision. And I can see why, though, making such a confident and strong decision can help you just be you. Because you don't I would assume you don't, for the most part, don't second guess stuff with that. You just know, like, well, if they didn't want me, they didn't want me.
Right. I mean, honestly, and that kind of goes with being comfortable now where I wasn't before, you know.
Yeah.
I remember going into auditions and for whatever reason, and I know we do this to ourselves as actors, but it's almost like, you know, the world's going to come to an end if I don't do well or if I don't get this role.
But sometimes it can feel that way, yeah.
It feels that way, you know. You feel like you're trying to, gosh, I don't know what to compare it to, but I've been there. I felt like, you know, almost heartbroken if I didn't book a role. But I mean, the fact of the matter is that this is actually in sales. They say this. I think this was a statement by Zig Ziglar. But the more no's you get, the closer you are to a yes.
Mm.
And but part of that comes with you being confident in yourself and just knowing that you're good at what you do. If you weren't good at what you do, you wouldn't be getting the opportunity to audition in the first place. You know, you just be confident that you're good at what you do, and you may not be what they're looking for.
Right.
Don't think that that's a mark on your ability or you as a person. That was the thing. I guess you kind of took it personally if they didn't pick you. You're like, well, what's wrong with me? Well, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just not what they were looking for.
Right.
And so that's that kind of, I guess you could segue from the beard into that. It's not necessarily, I understand that I'm probably not going to have this beard forever. I'm not going to have a beard like this, at least not to this magnitude forever. But it's you know, for the time being, this is who I am.
Right.
And I may not be what they're looking for, but the fact is I know who I am. I'm getting my face in front of them. Right. And I might not be what they're looking for this time, but this isn't the only project that casting director is going to work on. Yeah. I'll probably be auditioning for them for another role in the future. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the more times your face gets in front of them, the more they recognize you and the more likely they are. And the more comfortable, if you show yourself to be comfortable in who you are, the more likely they're going to be to book you for a role in the future. Yeah,
that's true. That's true. I think we had a question come in. It was actually from my wife, Kat, and she said, have your job experiences changed your acting techniques? I think in some ways you may have answered this, but if there's anything else you want to add that more specifically answers, have your job experiences changed your acting techniques?
I think not just the job experiences, but my life experiences. Mm-hmm. I'm light years from where I was 5 years ago, as a person, as a business person, as a family man, as a friend and a brother and a son, and you know, just the person I am now because of the experiences I've had. Mm-hmm. Good ones and bad ones, good experiences and bad experiences. I think all of that has changed my acting technique. You know, I mean, probably what even made me think that I could pursue it in the first place is I've had people tell me for years before I ever went in, you know, started pursuing acting. I had people tell me, you know, you're actually pretty good at this, you know, doing church plays and school plays and different things like that. People have said, for some reason, you kind of have a knack for it.
Yeah. And
I'm like, well, you know, I guess at the time I was like, yeah, I guess I'm good at playing pretend. I don't know. But then the opportunity came for me to actually pursue it. And I went to a couple of workshops for this agent and he was impressed with me. He thought that I had something and signed me.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I guess with the more experiences, you have more experiences to draw off of for the different emotions that you'll need to feel um, for different roles or whatever. You know, like on this Blue Cross Blue Shield commercial,
Mm-hmm.
I shot the scene with you on Sunday.
Right.
Me and you and Victor Arroyo and gosh, I went blank on the other girl's name, and Darcel, and there were several of us, a lot of us from Acclaim, not from Acclaim, from Action Talent were there, and we were in a factory. But the next day, I was shooting a scene with a little girl, Presley Richardson, who's also signed with Action Talent.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, if it hadn't been for my years of experience as a father to several kids, a couple of girls and a boy, and now 2 boys, because we have 4 now as of a month ago. If it hadn't been for I wouldn't have been as comfortable to be this girl's father for a day.
Right.
You know, and but that's what makes it believable, is that you can actually draw off of experience in your life to make the role that you're playing more real.
Okay. Yeah.
And so anyway,
I think that was a good answer. I definitely think life experience is a big part of what allows us as actors to play the experiences of a character more believably and make them a person and not just a character on a page. Well,
right.
It's
and back to the
go ahead.
The entrepreneurial thing kind of plays into that. Like she was talking about my work experience.
Mm-hmm.
I know that the income that I'm making now, because I'm an entrepreneur, I'm not working hourly wage or a salary for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
I'm my own boss. I make the entrepreneurial thing brings. I know that if I miss a couple of days, it's not necessarily going to affect my paycheck.
Mm.
And I think that's what's hard for actors who are working 9 to 5s or whatever, that aren't doing the entrepreneurial thing. That's probably the struggle. And that might be what was the struggle. That might be it playing into feeling like there's so much riding on this audition that you may be going to.
Right.
Is, you know, I'm missing work. I'm missing a day's work to be here.
Mm-hmm.
For this callback or whatever. And if I don't book it, then I just lost all that hourly wage that could have paid my light bill or whatever, you know?
Right.
And but as an entrepreneur, that also helps me to be more comfortable in who I am as an actor and the role that I'm auditioning for, because I know that at the end of the day, if I don't book it, it's not the end of the world. You know, mm-hmm. I've still got a job that pays my bills most of the time. Most of the time it pays my bills. I've still got a job that pays my bills, and eventually, because I have the freedom to pursue this mm-hmm. and have this job that pays my bills, it's not contingent on me being there every single day. Eventually the opportunity, you know, the more I'm able to pursue it, the more likely I am to be able to make a career out of it.
Right.
I think.
Yeah.
So
I think that was a great statement. The only caveat I almost would have for that is kind of on the flip side, on a personal level, for me, it was the decision a few years ago that to view myself as an actor for the rest of my life. So that no matter if I book this one today or not, it doesn't matter. No matter if I feel like I broke into the industry this year or if it's 5 years from now, in just that perpetual process of continuing to show up, do independent films, audition for things, right, that I was going to always keep showing up. I think that's what gave me some of the confidence to not freak out every time I had an audition. Not to say that right. I still, not to say that there aren't still points where I'm like, oh, am I progressing at the rate I should be and such, but, right. But I think you gave us a lot of good information today. I'd love, okay, real quick. Question. We're going to throw it on the screen. Not acting related. Is there a way we can donate shoes, and how can we help with your shoe operation? Is what the second question that Kat asked, and that's probably going to have to be our last question because we're nearing the 12 o'clock hour, and I've got to head out, and I want to be respectful of your time as well.
Sure. Yeah. Well, as far as the shoe thing, we do take donations for shoes. They don't have to be new shoes. We tell people gently used, donate gently used shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we go through the shoes before we pack them and take them with us anyway. We don't do strappy, real dressy shoes that we want to be able to give these kids. And I mean, we give some to their parents too. We want to give them shoes that they can be comfortable walking in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, think of yourself, if you know you're going to be walking all day, what kind of shoes would you wear?
Yeah.
You're probably not going to wear stilettos or, a pair of nice dress shoes. You're going to wear something a little more comfortable because these people do a lot more walking than we do. In the rural areas of Romania, they don't do so much driving. They walk.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and it's not all paved roads. It's, rocky terrain. And so we want to give them shoes that they can actually use that are going to be useful for them instead of, these are nice shoes, but you probably won't wear them a whole lot. So, but yeah, we take donations. The short answer, we take donations for shoes.
Where can we?
How you can get?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, if you want to send them, you can ship them to my address at my office. If you want to ship them to us, at 301 West Avenue G in Hope, Arkansas. That's 301 West Avenue G. Or probably an easier address to remember is the church address that my church is taking donations to for the shoes for us is number 1 Genesis Drive in Hope, Arkansas.
Okay.
So,
and if you're still watching, if you'll throw that into the comments, that would be helpful. I assume you heard that.
But back to what you were saying about calling yourself an actor. I get what you're saying, because I think a lot of us, if we're not booking roles, and I went through this too, you almost feel like you don't deserve that title if you're not actually making a living at it. But I think at the end of the day, it's all about how you see yourself. I mean, if this is something that you love, that you're passionate about, that you want to pursue, then that's who you are. And again, that plays into being comfortable with who you are. If you love this and you want to pursue this, then you are an actor. You are an entertainer. And, that'll help you be at ease with yourself. And even though you're not booking roles, that doesn't necessarily mean that you don't deserve that title. Does that make sense?
It does. And that was a good cap off to the end of the episode here.
Yeah.
Daulton, it's been great to talk to you, hear your story, hear your inspiration, your faith, and the ways that you've stepped out to help other people. And then also how, the acting world drew you back in through some of those connections and seeds that you had planted relationally years before. And that's something else that I seem to keep hearing a lot about, is how we sometimes feel like this moment, and then it ends up 2 years from now, somebody calls you up and says, hey, I've got a part in a film I want you to do, or I just wrote this script, I want you to do it, or hey, I'm casting people for this commercial, and I thought about your look. It's been years since I've heard from you, but for whatever reason, the moment they said this thing, it made me think of you. And so it's just encouraging to me, and I hope to everyone else, that as long as you keep showing up as an actor, people will know who you are over time. They'll see that you care about the industry, that you're professional, that you're improving, that that you're making those strides, and they'll remember who you are. That can also be a negative, but hopefully it's a positive. I'm going to throw the church address on the screen. It was number 1 Genesis Drive in Hope, Arkansas. 71801 is what Kat just typed in. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
So that's the church address if you want to make a donation and send some shoes to the people of Romania, and
or money. If you want to send money, that's fine.
Or money, to clarify. Yeah, so it was great to have actor, duck decoy, missionary, insurance salesman, husband, father, and much, much more, Daulton Brewer. It was great to have you on the show. Thanks, man, and hopefully we can have you on again sometime.
Thank you very much, Josh. I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun, and it was great to meet you. I'm glad I got to meet you at the commercial shoot in Jackson, and you know, it's I love the relationships that we develop. You know, you kind of feel like you're family. You feel like you're friends, even though you just met. And so I feel that way about you as well, sir. So
you too, brother.
Thank you very much. All right.
And
Thanks
everybody
have a good day.
Thank you. Before we sign off, I just want to say thank you to everybody who has watched the live broadcast here. This will be posted to the Facebook page right after we finish. So if you still want to share it with anybody that could use this advice, or if you have a favorite quote and you want to tell me, hey, you should cut this piece out and share it on your Instagram or other places, I can totally do that. Just let me know. Also, if anybody has any guests to suggest, or if anybody would like to be on the show, you can contact me through the Facebook page. That's probably the easiest way for now. And I guess that's all. Bye, Daulton, and bye to everybody watching.
Take care, man. See y'all later.